Chapter 12. Secrets and Schemes. The day after the tournament found Amira in the company of Vesha and Daindrath for most of it, again. Daindrath sat in judgment over the petitions and complaints of his vassals for the better part of the day, Vesha listening silently from the throne at his side. There was no sign of Santhi. All the same, Amira knew now that the Sithraul was there, bonded to the empress like a shadow. At times, Amira could have sworn she glimpsed flickers of red eyes watching her from across the room. Amira racked her brain for every detail she knew about witches. Their power came from their familiars. She knew that much. Beyond that, she wasn't sure. She wanted to ask Daindrath, or even Thadrid, if they knew of Vesha's demon, but hadn't had the chance. Too many eavesdropping ears. Daindrath ruled on some of the cases brought before him. Other cases he deferred to the lawyers for closer study. On a few of them, he glanced to Vesha for guidance, but not often. Amira was provided a stone chair beside Thadrid, some 20 paces away. The knight was kind enough to lean over and whisper the names and pertinent details of the various petitioners. Where they were from, how and if they were related to the imperial house, any current events involving them, etc. Every so often, his attention wandered to the pretty faces around the room, most of them casting covert smiles his way. Not all of them were from unwed women, either. A nobleman's daughter with lips painted a dark mauve slipped past them, following her parents out of the petition hall. She dropped a handkerchief at Thadrid's feet as she passed. Thadrid picked it up, pressed a kiss to the kerchief, and cast a devilish grin after the girl. She grinned back with a giggle before falling in after her parents, and disappearing through the archway. "Tisea Redmont. Lovely lass," Thadrid said. His signet ring fairly thrummed with caw, picking up on the energies of so many people in the walled space. The assassin would have to ask at some point how it worked. Did it simply collect caw, or could it also somehow be drained and tapped as a power source? Amira frowned after the girl. Tisea. She doesn't mind being one of a collection? Thadrid shrugged. I suppose not. Didn't you say earlier she's engaged to a baronet or something? Engaged isn't the same as married. Amira rolled her eyes. Thus the day continued. The court adjourned and Amira was shown back to her rooms by Shazni and a pair of bodyguards, not Kadrahan. Back in her rooms, Amira had Shazni help her out of her brocade court dress and into a green linen gown. Yet even as one of the plainer dresses, it was still embroidered along the hem, sleeves, and collar with tiny rose vines. Amira spared a glance for herself in the mirror. Even with the rouge, kohl, and lip stain removed, she still looked finer in that moment than she had on most days in Lashera. Some might even say that being betrothed to a monster was the best thing that had happened to her. Something tugged in her chest at that thought. Vesha honestly believed that Daindrath would succumb to his demon, and she probably knew demons better than anyone. Darrigan believed it. King Hyle seemed to believe it. Every curse can be broken. Amira pinched the bridge of her nose, thinking, who better to break the curse than the women who had cast it? If she went to the Istavari sorceresses, would they speak to her? Then again, she was to wed the son of their greatest enemy. She was sure Vesha must have tried contacting the Istavari, with either bribes or threats. But the sorceresses of the north were proud and spiteful. They wouldn't be so easily persuaded. Then there was the question of binding them. The haven never moved, but its entrance did, and that was buried somewhere deep inside the curse wood. One would have to travel through days of toxic plants and animals ranging from spruce finches to stilt foxes to kelpies and worse. It wasn't somewhere one could take an army, and yet it would take an army to convince those women to help Dangerith, she was sure. Unless they could be offered something in exchange for lifting the curse. Something. A knock at the door startled her before she could finish the thought. "His Highness, the Archduke, milady," the guard called from outside the door. So, they were being formal now, were they? "Enter," she said. The door opened and the Archduke appeared. Dangerith entered and paused on the threshold, hovering before her. "Amira." "Yes." Her heart increased its beat just a little as the door closed and all thoughts of strategic questions vanished. She straightened her shoulders, praying to Eponine that her face wasn't showing red. Dangerith glanced to the window before returning his attention to her. "I've been thinking about when we first met." Amira couldn't find somewhere comfortable for her hands and folded her arms across her chest. "Yes?" "I wanted to apologize." Dangerith looked away and back again. "For the way I treated you." Amira's brows rose. "For the way you treated me?" "Yes. I treated you badly. I made you tell me things you didn't want to." His mouth tightened. "I used your curse to control you." Amira's frown deepened. "Need I remind you that I tried to kill you?" He'd treated her far better than almost any other ruler would have treated a would-be assassin. "That's not the point. The point is, we're going to be married soon, and I wish we could have gotten a better start." His eyes drifted to her mouth, lingering there. Amira licked her lips and glanced to the window. "Nothing can change it now?" "I suppose not." Dangerith inhaled a long breath. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. "What's wrong?" Amira's pulse thumped heavily in her chest, and along her back, all the way down her spine. Dangerith straightened, and when he spoke, it was with the voice of an archduke, the voice of an emperor, a voice that was used to being obeyed. "Amira, I release you of all commands and compulsions I've ever given you." Amira's curse shifted in her throat, something yanked, and her head spun. She stumbled, and Dangerith caught her by her arms. She clung to him, steadying herself against his chest. "Are you all right, Amira?" She looked up at him, searching his face. "Why?" Dangerith offered her a sad smile. "I've lived without control. That's not something I'd wish on anyone." Amira shook her head, flattening her palm on his chest. "Without your commands, I could attack you. I could attack Thadrid. I could—" "Then I'll have to trust you, won't I?" Dangerith said. His face was close to hers, incredibly close. His heart thundered against her palm, hammering in time to her own racing pulse. The Archduke pulled back, ending the moment. "I hope you stay by my side, Amira," Dangerith said. "I hope you don't attack me or anyone else. But I want it to be your choice." He swallowed and turned to the door. "We're entertaining several ambassadors tonight, but I have more meetings until then. Thadrid will come to escort you to dinner later." Dangerith. Amira resisted the impulse to grab his sleeve. He paused, only turning part way. The assassin didn't know what she wanted to say until she opened her mouth and outspilled, "I have an idea." He looked back. "Yes?" His voice wavered just a little, and she wasn't sure why. Clearing her throat, Amira braced one hand against the back of the nearest couch. I want to try warding the demon. Dangerith turned partway to face her. What do you mean? If my mother's cast this curse on you, she gestured to him, and I mitigate it, then perhaps I can at least bind him. You don't want to try just throwing him out? Amira shook her head, trying to think of how to explain it. I believe your father was possessed through a curse, not a spell. It is a curse, Dangerith said. Yes, but... Amira narrowed her eyes at the ceiling, putting it into words. Spells are like tapestries. They're woven together, usually with Ka, and whatever physical mediums are required. They can be unraveled by any magic wielder who has enough power. That made it sound much easier than it actually was, but it was her best analogy. Curses are more like locks. They have specific release mechanisms. So how do we find the release mechanism? Dangerith asked, not surprisingly. There was an edge of excitement in his voice. Amira shook her head. That would be in the original terms of the curse. All curses were breakable, but they were designed to be as hard to break as possible. Amira had been over the terms of her own curse, the oaths to protect, serve, and honor her liege lord in exchange for power for as long as she lived under pain of death, and never found what appeared to be the slightest weakness. Yet it was there. It had to be. All curses had some way they could be broken off. How do we get the terms of the curse? The archduke's eyes were bright, almost hopeful. It sent an ache through her heart. He might have tried 1,000 sorcerers, potion makers, and charlatans before, but never a real sorceress. Never someone who actually suppressed the demon. She wanted to give him hope. She would have given him almost anything in that moment, but she didn't want to lie to him. The ones who cast it might still have a record of it. The Istavari. Her mother's. His curse would have been cast while the sorceresses were in Caer Murin, the tower where they had made their final stand. After, they had fled with little more than the clothes on their backs, and the tower had been destroyed. Dangerith rubbed the back of his neck. You know a great deal about curses. I studied them extensively, until my father forbade it. The Archduke's mouth tightened. I see. I should be able to weave a spell to mitigate the effects of a curse, though. Amira knew for sure that the effects of various curses could be lessened by spells. Dangerith paused, considering. But not for long. He nodded slowly. Tell me what you need in the morning, and I'll see you have it. He hadn't needed much convincing. It shouldn't take long, Amira said. I would just need to prepare a medium, and then an hour or so to weave the wards. Dangerith nodded. Whatever you want. He cleared his throat, looking away from her. I should go before I'm late. Did you know your mother is a witch? Amira asked, her words barely above a whisper. At that, Dangerith's expression shifted. A flash of surprise flitted across his face, and then he grimaced. Yes, he said. It's how she's kept the empire prosperous since my father died. He tilted his head, studying Amira. She told you. She showed me Santhi. Dangerith's eyes widened at that. I will speak with her. Was she not supposed to? No, she... He sighed. She told me she would leave you out of it. You disapprove of her practice? Dangerith jabbed a finger at his head. These things aren't to be trusted. I can take care of myself. You shouldn't have to, Dangerous answered. Amira had no response for that. You should have warned me, she whispered. Dangerous turned away. I was going to, but I didn't think she would tell you herself, especially not so soon. Why do you think she did? Dangerous's back was unreadable. I don't know. She thinks you'll succumb to Ka'is. Amira hated the sound of the words. She does, Dangerous confirmed. I think she's wrong. Dangerous turned at that and fixed her in a long, measured stare. Thank you, Amira. The words came out ragged, but brimming with gratitude. We'll speak more later. Amira nodded and watched him go as the door closed and she was left behind. Disappointment left her standing there for a long moment. What had she hoped would happen? She made her way into her bedchamber and threw herself on the bed, not bothering to change. She fingered the place at her throat where the curse lived, reliving Dangerous's every word. It was proof of trust she didn't deserve, trust he shouldn't have given. Despite the uncertainty and the new danger she'd discovered, Amira's mind wandered to the heat of Dangerous's breath on her skin, and the hammer of his heartbeat against her palm.